Ash was trained to obey, particularly in perilous situations. However, as firefighters retreated from the collapsing apartment complex, he performed an unexpected act, broke free, and sprinted directly into the flames. All around, people yelled for him to halt, but when his handler, Alex Reed, pursued him and observed where the dog had led, the entire fire ground became still. What did Ash unearth from under the rubble, prompting even experienced firefighters to retreat? Please subscribe and leave a comment below, letting us know your location. Now let's begin. The search and rescue dog halted at a pile of rubble, remaining still despite the firefighters' instructions to exit the burning building. "Get your dog out of there," the chief demanded, until the animal began frantically digging through the debris. The entire rescue team was stunned when they uncovered what was hidden beneath. Before we begin today's story, please leave a comment below and let us know where you're watching from. If you enjoy remarkable dog stories like this one, be sure to click the subscribe button. You're going to want to see what's next. The first alarm shattered the quiet at Westside Fire Station 12 as dawn broke over the city. Firefighter Alex Reed quickly woke from his brief rest in the break room, his training kicking in as he put on his gear. The dispatcher's voice broke through the speakers, conveying clear urgency. "All units, please respond to 1400 Oakwood Terrace. Apartment complex fire, multiple floors involved, with possible entrapments reported." Alex's hands moved with practiced efficiency, securing each strap and buckle as Chief Martinez issued orders across the bay. Then, as he prepared himself, his eyes sought out his partner. Ash, a 4-year-old Belgian Malinois with intelligent amber eyes, was already alert, his muscular body tensed in anticipation. The search and rescue dog displayed no uncertainty, unlike the humans nearby. He showed only focus and readiness. "Ash, gear up," Alex called, and the dog immediately trotted to where his specialized vest hung. The reflective harness displayed the marks of 3 years of service, small burns, tears mended with careful stitches, and patches replaced following difficult rescues. Each mark represented stories of lives saved and perils confronted together. As Engine 12 started, Alex secured Ash in the rescue vehicle. Captain Jenkins looked back from the driver's seat, his aged face serious. Dispatch stated the situation was critical. It involved a 5-story complex. The fire began on the 2nd floor, but flames were now visible from 3 sides. From his position, Alex already observed a column of thick black smoke rising against the dawn sky, creating an ominous silhouette against the awakening city. A familiar tension tightened his chest. It wasn't fear, but the focusing edge of adrenaline that sharpened his senses. Beside him, Ash's breathing remained steady. His eyes remained fixed forward, as if he could already see the task ahead. They rounded the final corner onto Oakwood Terrace, and the disaster revealed itself. The Ridgewood Apartments, housing over 50 families, had become a rapidly spreading fire. Flames were visible from the windows on the 2nd and 3rd floors, climbing upward with alarming speed. Outside, residents stood in night clothes, some wrapped in blankets, others in stunned silence as they observed their homes burning. Chief Martinez was establishing command as Alex exited the truck with Ash at his heels. Engine 12, initiate water supply. Ladder 7, east side evacuation. Reed, prepare Ash. Verify missing persons on floors 3 and 4. Alex swiftly knelt beside Ash, ensuring the proper fit of his protective booties and specialized respirator mask designed to filter smoke particles. "Ready to save lives, buddy?" he asked, looking into those intelligent eyes that displayed only determination. Ash responded with a single, focused bark, their established routine before entering any fire scene. Firefighting operations proceeded with disciplined urgency surrounding them. Water lines stretched across the pavement, ladder trucks were positioned strategically, and teams of firefighters moved with purpose. However, for Alex and Ash, the focus narrowed to a single mission: to locate those unable to escape. The stairwell was a chimney of heat and smoke as they ascended. Alex kept one hand on the railing and the other on Ash's specialized lead, although the dog required little guidance. Amidst the disarray of fire alarms and flames engulfing the building, Ash moved with a determination that appeared almost unreal to those unfamiliar with search dogs in action. Fourth floor first, Alex instructed through his mask, his words barely discernible above the din of the emergency. 3 years prior, Alex couldn't have envisioned this partnership. Following the loss of his previous search dog, Max, in a warehouse collapse, he had vowed to discontinue working with the canine division. The guilt remained intense, the memories too difficult. He'd moved to regular firefighting responsibilities, resolved to protect his heart from further connections. Then came the shelter visit that altered everything. Ash had been found abandoned in a foreclosed home, severely malnourished, but still full of life. Something in the dog's steadfast gaze broke through Alex's carefully built barriers. The shelter worker had said this one knew what it meant to be trapped, and to be found. Now, as they reached the 4th floor, that same determined spirit guided Ash through conditions that would have disoriented most humans. The smoke was so thick that Alex's flashlight created more glare than illumination, but Ash navigated confidently, his nose working through his specialized mask to filter scents from the smoke. Alex shouted, initiating the standard call, though it was likely futile against the fire's roar. But protocol dictated it. Ash suddenly veered left, heading toward apartment 403. The door was closed, but intensely hot, suggesting a fire inside. Alex signaled Ash to retreat, then breached the door using his halogen tool. A surge of heat and black smoke poured out, briefly pushing them back, but Ash quickly regained his focus, guiding Alex through the confusing darkness of what had previously been a family living room. Fire department, is anyone here? Alex repeated, scanning the area with his thermal imaging camera. The furniture was now completely ablaze, transforming the apartment into a labyrinth of flames. Ash emitted a sharp, warning sound and pulled them toward a bedroom door. Alex followed, relying on his partner's senses more than the restricted view his equipment offered. Upon reaching the door, he discovered it was stuck, likely due to heat distortion or an obstruction within. Step back, Ash, he instructed, then forcefully impacted his shoulder against the door several times until it yielded. The bedroom was not as heavily engulfed in flames, but was filled with dangerous smoke. 3 small figures were huddled together on the floor, in the corner farthest from the door. A woman held 2 children, and all were unconscious. I've got victims in 403, Alex reported over his radio, already moving toward the family. The mother and 2 children were unresponsive. Time felt compressed into a series of urgent actions. Alex checked for pulses, all were present but weak. He briefly placed his own mask over each child, allowing them a few seconds of pure oxygen before resuming his own breathing. Using practiced motions, he lifted the smaller child onto his left shoulder and instructed Ash to secure the specially designed pull sleeve on the second child's pajamas, a rescue method they had refined through numerous training exercises. Carrying the mother proved too difficult while also handling the child and the dog, but further firefighters were already en route to his call. 2 members of Ladder 7 emerged from the smoke, appearing like figures in their protective gear. I've got the mother, one stated, already lifting her. You get the kids out. The return trip through the burning apartment was a perilous path, filled with falling debris and rapidly spreading flames. Ash didn't pause, keeping a steady hold on the child's pull sleeve as he moved through the disorder. This was when his preparation proved valuable, the skill to resolve an issue on his own while still obeying Alex's instructions. They arrived at the stairwell just as a portion of the ceiling fell behind them, sending sparks showering over their backs. The children were starting to awaken, a positive indication, but the building was failing quickly. Move! Move! Alex implored, addressing both his human co-workers and to Ash. Descending the staircase proved quicker but riskier than climbing up, as the fire had weakened the building's structure. At last, they emerged through the exit into the comparatively secure staging area, where paramedics were present. Alex released the children into the care of the medical staff, observing as oxygen masks were placed over their faces. Ash loosened his hold on the pole sleeve only when Alex gave the command, then stood watch nearby as the medical team worked. The radio crackled with new urgency. All interior teams, be advised, we have reports of an elderly couple still missing in 312. Anyone available to check? Alex met Ash's gaze, who appeared completely unfazed by the ordeal they'd just survived. Despite the heat and exertion, the dogs stood ready, awaiting the next command. Rescue 4 responding, Alex reported, Reed and Ash heading to the third floor. This was their established pattern, their objective, a recurring sequence of risk and rescue that characterized their partnership. They returned toward the burning building with minimal pause, taking only a quick drink of water each, unswayed by the flames now visible from nearly every window. The third floor presented a devastated scene of fallen ceiling tiles, shattered glass, and flame-damaged furniture. The building's sprinkler system had activated, but was clearly inadequate, creating a disturbing imitation of rainfall that transformed the smoke into a hazardous mist instead of suppressing the fire. 312 should be to the right, Alex muttered, primarily to himself as Ash headed in that direction. The heat pressed against them, a palpable force, straining the boundaries of both man and dog's protective gear. Alex's thermal sensors indicated excessively high ambient temperatures. Time was limited before the environment became unsustainable. Ash halted outside apartment 312, his posture indicating a heightened state of readiness. The door was already ajar, probably due to previous evacuation efforts. Alex pushed it open further, and his halogen tool illuminated an apartment beginning to be engulfed by fire. Fire department. Shout out. Unexpectedly, a weak voice responded from within. Help, we are here. Bathroom. Without being told, Ash moved towards where the voice originated. There, they discovered an elderly man kneeling beside the bathtub, his wife lying unconscious, a damp towel covering her face in a frantic effort to reduce the smoke. With assistance from further firefighters, who arrived promptly, they safely evacuated the elderly couple through a fire escape, coinciding with that part of the building exhibiting signs of potential collapse. Almost immediately after Alex's boots made contact with the concrete, a loud groaning signaled the partial collapse of the building's eastern section, exactly where they had been only moments before. All personnel accounted for? Chief Martinez's voice resonated over the radios and throughout the staging area. A rapid series of confirmations then followed as team leaders checked the safety of their team members. Alex examined Ash carefully, using familiar motions to check for any hidden injuries. Finding none, he took off the dog's breathing mask, allowing Ash to breathe easily in the comparatively fresh air outside. You did well, buddy, he said softly, offering water from a specialized bottle. Really well. Chief Martinez arrived, his face covered in soot under his helmet. You and Ash take 15. Position yourself on the southwest corner with Engine 3. We will be taking a defensive posture around the entire structure. The building is too severely damaged to allow for any additional entries. Alex acknowledged, appreciating the short break. He led Ash to the rehabilitation station where Dr. Chun, the department veterinarian, was already present, having been summoned for the significant incident. Let me see him, Dr. Chun stated, quickly assessing Ash's respiratory rate and inspecting his paws for burns. He is exhibiting mild heat stress, but it is not serious. Ensure he remains hydrated and in the shade for at least 15 minutes. All residents accounted for? Alex asked a nearby officer who was updating the incident board. As far as we can tell, she replied, checking her clipboard. The building manager confirmed all apartments evacuated or searched, 17 to hospital, no confirmed fatalities. Alex felt the familiar mixture of exhaustion and relief that came with a successful evacuation. He turned to tell Ash the good news, but noticed the dog's behavior had shifted dramatically. The easygoing stance of a working dog, enjoying a deserved rest, had vanished. Instead, Ash stood stiffly, ears pricked, eyes locked on the burning building with an intensity Alex readily understood. Ash, what is it? He asked, instantly aware of the change. The dog whined, a sound seldom heard from the trained rescue animal, and advanced several steps toward the burning building before glancing back at Alex with unmistakable urgency. There's no one else in there, buddy, Alex said, attempting to reassure him. We got everyone out. Yet, even as he spoke, a chilling sense of foreboding arose within him. In 3 years of partnership, he had never once seen Ash incorrect regarding a possible victim. Should the dog suspect someone was still present, then someone was, irrespective of the official headcount. Ash barked sharply, the sound piercing the noise of the fire scene. Subsequently, the bark was more insistent. "Whoa, settle him down," advised Lieutenant Wilson, who had been assigned temporary handling duties, while Alex prepared to join the exterior firefighting efforts. "He's likely just reacting to all the stimulation." Wilson attempted to grasp Ash's leash, but the dog retreated, barking with rising intensity, his gaze fixed on the burning building. "Something's wrong," Alex stated, already reaching for his equipment. "He doesn't act like this. Never." Before Wilson could retrieve the leash, Ash reacted, propelling himself forward with such unexpected power that the clasp securing his harness to the lead broke apart. Within a moment, the rescue dog was sprinting across the fire ground, maneuvering between firefighters and equipment with unwavering focus. "Ash!" Alex yelled, a wave of dread washing over him as he observed his partner heading toward the structure, completely consumed by fire. "Ash, stop!" But the dog had already moved through a ground-floor entrance, disappearing into the smoke and flames without pause. "Mayday! Mayday!" Alex shouted into his radio, already heading for his equipment. "Canine officer has re-entered the building. East entrance, ground floor." The response was immediate and incredulous. "Say again, Reed." "Your dog went back in," they stated. Alex was quickly attaching his oxygen tank, skipping standard checks due to his urgency. "Affirmative. Ash has re-entered. He's detecting something, suggesting someone might still be inside." "Negative on re-entry, Reed." Chief Martinez's immediate order came. "The building is structurally compromised. I repeat, do not enter that building." Despite the urgency, Alex's hands remained steady as he fastened his mask and helmet. 3 years of partnership, hundreds of hours of training, and dozens of live rescues had instilled in him a fundamental understanding. Ash never erred concerning victims. If the dog indicated someone was present, then someone was there. Official headcounts were irrelevant. "With respect, Chief," Alex responded, already moving toward the building. "My partner is inside, and he has located something. I'm entering the structure." "Reed, stand down." Martinez's voice boomed, reaching both the radio and the staging area, as he noticed Alex's action. "That is a direct order." For a fleeting instant, Alex paused, 15 years of trained obedience clashing with the firm belief that his partner required his help. Then, a recollection surfaced. Max, his initial partner, had been lost because Alex had obeyed a withdrawal command instead of following the dog's intuition. "I cannot, sir," he responded succinctly, and he entered the smoke. The building's interior was almost unrecognizable compared to just 20 minutes prior. What had been a hazardous but passable structure was now a scene of collapsed ceilings, burning furniture, and structural beams dangling overhead. The temperature had climbed to levels straining his protective gear. The air was so intensely hot that each breath felt like inhaling fire despite his SCBA. "Alex," called, his voice muffled by his mask and the constant roar of the fire. "Ash." Navigating by memory and instinct, he pushed toward where apartment 104 should be, the direction Ash had headed. Visibility was near zero, forcing him to stay low and move by feel as much as sight. His thermal imaging camera showed little beyond an overwhelming field of heat signatures from the fire itself. A partial ceiling collapse compelled him to withdraw briefly, locating an alternative passage through what had previously served as a first-floor community room. The ticking clock was a significant challenge, not only due to the increasingly hazardous building conditions but also because of his dwindling air supply. His tank indicated he had approximately 15 minutes remaining before he would be compelled to retreat or risk suffocation. "Bark if you hear me, Ash," he called out, hoping the instruction would prompt a reply he could track. Initially, there was only the chaotic noise of a collapsing building. Then, a distinct bark echoed from within, and Alex focused on the sound, advancing with determination. After 3 minutes of cautious movement, he reached a corridor unfamiliar to him. Fallen support beams had broken through the ceiling, forming a dangerous path of burning wreckage. The temperature was exceptionally high, and the faceplate of his mask was exhibiting clear signs of heat stress. Another bark, closer now, directed him onward. Finally, through a haze of smoke, Alex observed a recognizable figure. Ash, partially hidden by scattered wreckage, yet undeniably alive and working with considerable urgency. Ash, thank God! Alex exhaled, swiftly approaching to reach his comrade. What he discovered stunned him utterly. Ash surveyed a large accumulation of rubble, seemingly from a collapsed interior wall and ceiling. The dog was digging and pulling at the debris, stopping briefly to look back at Alex with a desperate, urgent expression. Someone was trapped beneath. Alex knelt beside Ash, working quickly to move the debris that had so agitated the dog. Good boy, he said, even as his gloved hands tore at shattered drywall and splintered wood. Show me, Ash. Show me where. Ash increased his efforts in a particular area, his nose working tirelessly despite the dense smoke. Alex concentrated his efforts there as well, disregarding the precarious sounds of the building around them and the decreasing air pressure indicated on his gauge. Almost overlooking it when his glove brushed against an unexpected object, Ash's urgent calls redirected his focus. Working with urgency, Alex cleared more debris and located what Ash had identified. A human hand, small and delicate, was visible beneath the rubble. With a racing heart, he checked the wrist, hoping for a sign that seemed unlikely given the circumstances, and felt it a pulse, faint but discernible. I've got a victim, he announced into his radio. Adrenaline flooded his system, causing his voice to waver. First floor, east corridor under collapse. Victim is alive. Repeat, live victim. With painstaking effort, he removed more of the wreckage, exposing more of the person trapped, a teenage girl who was unconscious but alive. Her face was partially shielded by what looked like a bathroom door that had fallen at an angle over her. Hang on, he murmured, knowing she couldn't hear him. We're going to get you out. The scene was intensely difficult. He could now see her clearly. However, substantial portions of wall and ceiling still held her lower body. Moving the victim without the right tools created a risk of additional injury or a potential destabilization of the entire collapse section. A loud groaning from above signaled a possible further collapse. Simultaneously, his air gauge indicated a 5-minute warning. He faced difficult decisions. Remain with the victim and risk all three of them being buried, or leave to seek assistance, with the possibility of returning to find the girl crushed by a subsequent collapse. The choice was made for him when Ash abruptly stiffened, ears pointed towards the hallway. Shortly after, the welcome appearance of 2 firefighters in full gear appeared from the smoke. Over here, Alex called, a wave of relief washing over him. We have a live victim. The RIT team reacted swiftly, evaluating the situation with practiced efficiency. We need to reinforce this before extraction, the leader decided. Hansen, retrieve the portable stabilizers from your pack. Collaborating, the 3 firefighters meticulously placed emergency bracing to avoid additional collapse while they rescued the trapped girl. Ash remained nearby, his presence offering an unusual sense of reassurance within the chaotic scene, as he persistently monitored the girl. On 3, the RIT leader instructed when they were prepared. 1, 2, 3. They raised the heaviest piece of debris jointly, enabling the second team member to swiftly extract the girl. Alex quickly rechecked her vitals. She was still alive, though her breathing was shallow and labored. Let's move now, the leader ordered. This whole section is going to collapse any second. Alex scooped the girl into his arms while the RIT members gathered their equipment. She was lighter than expected, likely no more than 15 or 16 years old. Her right leg was at an unusual angle, clearly broken, and a jagged piece of glass had become lodged in her shoulder. Although she sustained injuries, smoke inhalation presented the most pressing danger to her. Guided by Ash, they commenced their withdrawal through the burning structure. The dog's search and rescue training, now focused on locating an escape route, proved invaluable, a skill that had previously saved numerous lives, including those of fellow firefighters, facing swiftly evolving circumstances. As they retreated, the ceiling collapsed entirely, unleashing a wave of dust and debris that pursued them along the corridor. The building was nearing the end of its structural failure, complete collapse now unavoidable. Alex's air supply emitted its last alert sound as they neared what had previously been the building's primary entrance. His vision was starting to narrow, potentially due to lack of oxygen or intense fatigue, but he would not release his grip on the girl. Ash remained slightly ahead, finding a path through the smoke with remarkable accuracy. Following what felt like an endless amount of time, a rectangular area of lighter gray emerged within the pervasive black smoke, signifying the exit. Alex, using his remaining strength, advanced forward, with Ash providing steadfast guidance during those essential final steps. They broke through the doorway into the comparatively brighter environment outside. They emerged through a dense cloud of smoke, just as another portion of the building crumbled behind them with a deafening crash. The shift from the inferno to the open air was startling, from a deafening roar to the organized chaos of the command area. For a moment, Alex simply stood there, the unconscious girl cradled in his arms, Ash pressed against his leg. All three of them appeared as living sculptures of ash and exhaustion. "We need a medic," someone shouted, and suddenly they were surrounded by paramedics, hands reaching for the girl, voices overlapping in a rapid assessment. A female adolescent, approximately 15 to 16 years of age, Alex reported as he gently transferred her to the waiting gurney. She was found unconscious, with shallow breathing, a weak but present pulse, a fractured right femur, and a laceration to her left shoulder with embedded glass. Probable smoke inhalation was also noted. While preparations were underway to transfer the girl to the ambulance, Alex observed something held in her hand, a small silver locket, its chain wrapped firmly around her fingers, seemingly the most valuable thing she possessed. "Wait," he stated, indicating it, "ensure that remains with her. Could be significant." Only then did Alex permit himself to be directed towards the medical assessment area, Ash walking with a slight limp beside him. Dr. Chun went directly to examine the dog, while another paramedic urged Alex to sit down and accept oxygen. A second-degree burn was observed on his left flank, Dr. Chun reported, carefully cleaning the injury. Minor burns were present on all four paw pads, even with the boots. He is severely dehydrated and showing signs of smoke inhalation, but his condition is not critical. "Both of you need treatment," stated Chief Martinez, whose voice was stern, as he arrived amidst the organized chaos of the scene. His face held a complex blend of anger and satisfaction. "Sir, I can explain," Alex started, but Martinez interrupted. "You disregarded instructions, put yourself and the RIT team at risk, and broke established procedures," he said, adding, "all of which we will review once medical personnel confirm you are both stable." His expression eased a little. Was Ash correct? The girl? Was she at the location he specified? Alex confirmed the precise location, buried beneath collapsed debris within the former apartment 104. Conventional search and rescue efforts would not have led us to her. 2 weeks later, Alex and Ash were at Westside Fire Station 12 for an event that had been presented as a modest acknowledgement of their actions. The station's apparatus bay had been decorated with department flags and arranged with rows of chairs intended for city officials, emergency services representatives, and members of the media. While the mayor presented citations for extraordinary service, the station doors opened, revealing unexpected guests, Thomas and Jennifer Harmon, and notably, their daughter, Lily. The teenager moved carefully, using crutches. Her broken leg was encased in a cast adorned with numerous signatures. "We heard about today's recognition," Thomas said. Lily emphasized her desire to be present. The teenager approached Ash, who remained in a formal seated posture, but couldn't hide a subtle tail wag indicating he recognized her. "The doctors say I can return to school next week," Lily told Alex. "I still need physical therapy for my leg, but my lungs are almost completely recovered." She awkwardly lowered herself despite using her crutches to be at the dog's eye level. "I brought something for you," she said, reaching into her pocket. She crafted a miniature replica of her grandmother's silver locket, designed to fit on a dog's collar. "It's not the original," she clarified. "That remains with me, but I wanted Ash to have something as well." She looked at Alex. "Would it be all right to fasten it to his collar?" With deliberate movements, Lily secured the small silver locket to Ash's collar. "Now you'll always have a reminder of the life you saved." Subsequently, while traversing the well-known hallways of Station 12, Captain Jenkins approached them. "Welcome back, you two. Ready to get to work?" Alex looked down at Ash, who responded with that characteristic look of complete preparedness, the working dog's version of excitement restrained by training. "Yes, sir," Alex replied, experiencing a sense of completeness for the first time since their experience. "We're ready." Have you ever observed an animal detect something that humans entirely overlooked? It's striking how their instincts can occasionally detect dangers that remain unnoticed by our presumed advanced senses. What action would you have taken if you were in Alex's position? Would you have trusted your partner's instincts enough to risk everything? If you've ever developed a special connection with an animal, you know that communication extends beyond commands and training. Has a pet or working animal ever surprised you with their intelligence in a critical moment? If today's story resonated with you, please click the like button to assist us in reaching a wider audience of animal enthusiasts. Remember to subscribe to our channel for more captivating canine narratives and tap the notification bell to stay informed about our latest uploads. Kindly share this video with friends and family who admire the incredible skills of working dogs. Be sure to view our additional stories about brave dogs currently playing, including the remarkable account of a tracking dog who located a lost Alzheimer's patient during a blizzard. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, with another brand new video. The funeral was silent, heavy with grief until the police dog acted. He jumped onto his handler's casket, and his subsequent actions left the entire room in tears. Here's what happened. But before we get into today's story, drop a comment below telling us where in the world you're watching from. And if you love extraordinary police dog stories like this one, make sure to hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what's coming next. The October morning arrived gray and somber, as if the sky reflected the sadness of those assembled at Oakwood Memorial Chapel. A cool breeze stirred the nearby maple trees, their crimson leaves sometimes detaching to briefly swirl, before landing on the gravel pathway where numerous police cruisers were arranged in precise formation. Within the chapel, the atmosphere was thick with the combined fragrances of polished wood, floral displays, and the palpable stress of shared sorrow. Officers in dress blues occupied the pews, their badges adorned with black mourning bands. Their faces, typically hardened by years of service, visibly strained to remain composed as they observed the flag-draped casket at the room's front. Officer Michael Mike Reeves, 34 years old and an 8-year veteran of the Riverside Police Department, a recipient of 2 commendations for bravery, rested silently within the wooden box. An official portrait, positioned on an easel next to the casket, depicted a man with keen hazel eyes and a gentle smile that didn't fully convey a solemn demeanor. In the front row, Mike's parents were seated, visibly burdened by the sorrow of outliving their son. His mother held a handkerchief, while his father, a former officer, gazed forward. Next to them, Mike's sister Elaine dabbed at tears that appeared unending, her shoulders shaking with each inhale. Near the side entrance, a disturbance caught the attention of several people. Officer Terrence Wilson worked to manage a Belgian Malinois, whose strong physique trembled with anticipation. The dog's golden-brown eyes moved quickly around the chapel, examining every face and every area, as if looking for someone expected to be present. "Easy, Ranger," Wilson said softly, tightening his hold on the leash as the dog made a low, mournful sound. Ranger had been Mike's partner for 4 years. Working as a team, they had located missing children, arrested dangerous suspects, and uncovered hidden contraband that could have gone unnoticed. They were the K-9 unit's most accomplished team. Now Ranger's ears twitched, his nose working intensely, showing uncertainty in his posture. 4 years prior, Officer Mike Reeves had been in the impersonal hallway of the regional K-9 training center, anxiously straightening his uniform collar. Following 6 years of patrol work, he received approval for the K-9 unit, a goal he'd held since his academy days. The training sergeant, a stern woman named Martinez with 20 years of experience visible on her face, guided him towards the kennels. She cautioned him, her keys making noise as they walked, not to become too attached too quickly. He would work with 3 prospects before final assignments were made. Some partnerships succeed, others fail. The dog's choice is as important as your own. A lively atmosphere filled the kennel area. German Shepherds, Belgian Malinois, and Dutch Shepherds were watchful in their enclosures. Martinez paused at the 3rd kennel, where a tan Malinois with distinctive facial markings stood rigidly at attention, amber eyes following every movement. "This is Ranger, 18 months old, imported from a European working line," Martinez said, observing Mike's reaction. "He has a high drive, high intelligence, and could be too intense for some handlers." A prior candidate found him unmanageable, describing him as too intense. Mike lowered himself to the dog's level, keeping eye contact. Typically, police dogs displayed immediate enthusiasm or aggression upon approach, but Ranger was an exception. He stayed perfectly still, evaluating Mike with a disconcerting intensity, as if peering directly through him. "Hey there, partner," Mike said gently. At those words, a slight alteration appeared in Ranger's stance. A minor change that only Martinez detected, his eyebrows lifting a little. The dog moved toward the kennel gate with careful steps, paused once to sniff at Mike's offered hand, then settled, holding eye contact. "Well," Martinez said, "that's certainly not what I expected." The bond was instant, though neither person nor dog could articulate it. When they started training together the following day, the other handlers observed in amazement as Ranger seemed to predict Mike's instructions almost before he voiced them. By the third week, Martinez discontinued the rotations, formally assigning pairs. Their initial significant challenge arose 6 months later, a missing 10-year-old child in Oakwood Park. The search had been ongoing for hours, with numerous agencies searching the thick woodland as night fell and temperatures decreased. Mike observed Ranger assessing the scene, tracking a scent trail that other canines had overlooked. "He's detected something," Mike transmitted to the command post. "We are proceeding east towards the creek bed." Rain had begun to fall, washing away scent particles, but Ranger never hesitated. He led Mike through thickets and over fallen trees until they found the boy, huddled beneath an overhanging embankment, hypothermic but alive. Their partnership extended beyond statistics. Mike had remained single, his apartment becoming their shared domain. Morning runs continued regardless of weather. Evenings were spent reinforcing training exercises that had become more like games, their lives completely intertwined. Mike's parents had thoughtfully provided Ranger with a Christmas stocking, acknowledging him as part of the family. The 911 call was received at 2:34 a.m. on Thursday, reporting a domestic disturbance on Elm Street, a residential area of modest single-family homes. Dispatch records indicated this was the third call originating from that address within the past 2 months, with prior incidents resolved without any arrests. Officer Chun was already en route, requesting additional support as per standard protocol. K9-7 was ready to assist, as Mike had radioed, with Ranger alert in the specialized compartment behind him. Acknowledged K9-7. The report indicated a male subject, possibly armed, with children present in the home. Mike's cruiser arrived approximately half a block from the address, maintaining dark lights to minimize the risk of escalation. Chen's patrol car was already on scene, positioned strategically to provide cover. Mike secured Ranger's tactical harness, and the dog instantly transitioned to working mode. "Report, what is the situation?" "Mike," she said as they neared Chun, who was positioned behind her vehicle door, hand on her holster. The male subject was identified as Jacob Reynolds, age 42. His wife had initiated the call, stating he had been consuming alcohol and had begun threatening her with a handgun when she announced her intention to leave him. 2 children were present inside the residence, aged 8 and 5. The house appeared dark, with only a single light illuminating the living room. Abruptly, the front door swung open, and a woman emerged, holding 2 children, all still in pajamas. "He's got a gun," she gasped, as Chen directed them towards the patrol cars. He stated he wasn't returning to jail. A records check verified Reynolds had previous arrests for assault and unlawful possession of a firearm. The situation had progressed from a domestic disturbance to a potential armed standoff. Reinforcements were on the way, estimated time of arrival 4 minutes. Dispatch updated, SWAT alerted but assembling. "We might not have 4 minutes," Mike responded, observing movement at the window. The subject appeared increasingly agitated. Additional patrol units arrived, officers taking positions around the perimeter. Mike released Ranger's leash, giving him a hand signal to stay close. a command that would keep the dog within 3 feet without restricting his movement. They proceeded to the side of the house, utilizing shadows for cover. Got a visual. Mike reported quietly into his shoulder. Mike's subject in living room, confirmed armed, handgun in right hand, appears highly agitated. Captain Walsh's voice crackled over the radio. Hold positions.
Ostage négociateur en route.
Reynolds, however, disregarded the order. The front door exploded inward. A figure appeared against the light within, weapon raised. Stay back, he yelled, swinging the gun haphazardly between officers. Reynolds discharged a stray shot that struck Chen's patrol car. Officers retreated behind cover, issuing verbal instructions but refraining from firing due to the family's location behind vehicles. Reynolds moved down the front steps. One now pointed directly at the group, including his wife and children. Mike assessed the situation instantly. Reynolds had an unobstructed view of his family. Officers lacked a secure vantage point, and the man's finger was closing on the trigger. Mike gave Ranger the silent command they'd practiced repeatedly. 2 quick taps on his thigh, indicating an apprehension attack. Ranger surged forward with explosive speed, a tan blur in the darkness. At the same time, Mike moved to flank, positioning himself between Reynolds and his intended targets. Reynolds noticed the dog approaching and redirected his weapon towards the new danger. 2 shots echoed through the night. Ranger connected with Reynolds' arm, the expertly trained bite causing the man to drop his weapon. Both men went down, but Reynolds managed to fire first, with a bullet impacting Mike's chest just beneath his vest. A second shot followed from Mike's service weapon as he fell, hitting Reynolds in the shoulder, disabling him but not fatally. Officer down. Officer down. Chen's voice broke over the radio as she hurried to Mike, who had fallen onto the asphalt. Ranger kept his hold on Reynolds until another officer secured the suspect, then immediately moved away from the scene, a course of action he would not typically take, and rushed to Mike's side. The dog whined, pawing at his partner's chest where blood was quickly spreading across his uniform. Stay with me, Reeves, Chen urged, applying pressure to the wound. Bus is 2 minutes out. Mike's breathing came in shallow gasps, his eyes finding Ranger's. He whispered, "Good boy," lifting a shaking hand to touch the dog's head. "Best partner ever." Ranger lay down beside him, pressing his body against Mike's side as paramedics arrived. They worked frantically, loading Mike into the ambulance, but the bullet had struck at an angle that sent it beneath the protective vest, severing a major artery. Officer Michael Reeves was pronounced dead at Riverside Memorial Hospital at 3:28 a.m. While emergency personnel desperately attempted resuscitation, Ranger stayed in the emergency room hallway, with Officer Wilson holding his leash. The dog's eyes remained fixed on the trauma bay doors. When the doctor finally came out, shaking his head, Ranger appeared to comprehend before any words were spoken. His body drooped, the confident stance faltering as a howl began, a sound so intense, so resembling human sorrow, that seasoned emergency staff averted their gaze. Inside the chapel, the funeral service had commenced. Chief Roberts moved to the podium, his usual strong demeanor tempered by sorrow. Officer Michael Reeves represented the epitome of what it means to serve in the badge. He began to speak, his resonant voice firm despite the emotion evident in his eyes. During his 8 years of service, he demonstrated consistent courage, compassion, and dedication to this community. Nearby, Ranger's restlessness grew. Wilson held the leash securely, yet the dog's attention remained fixed, focused on the casket where his partner rested. The chief noted that Mike's devotion to his canine partner, Ranger, had forged one of the most successful teams in our department. Together, they were credited with over 200 successful operations, saving countless lives and enhancing the safety of our community. Mike's mother wept softly, comforted by her husband's embrace. His sister Elaine remained stiffly beside them, sometimes touching the canine unit pin Mike had given her last Christmas. Captain Walsh then stepped to the podium, recounting a memory of Mike's first day on patrol. He arrived 30 minutes early, his uniform so impeccably pressed it appeared it could have cut paper, Walsh remembered, prompting a few sorrowful smiles. When I inquired about his promptness, he stated, "My dad always told me if you're on time, you're already late." Mike consistently exceeded expectations. As personal recollections transitioned into the official ceremony, Ranger displayed increasing signs of distress. The dog breathed rapidly, adjusting his posture, and kept his gaze fixed on the casket. Wilson worked to manage the situation, understanding the importance of the moment, yet obligated to ensure order throughout the service. The department chaplain commenced the religious segment of the service, his words of comfort seeming inadequate given the sight of a flag-draped casket and a room filled with grief. Though Officer Reeves walks through the valley of the shadow of death, he fears no evil, the chaplain stated. At these words, Ranger emitted a low whine that resonated through the quiet chapel, and several heads turned, with expressions of understanding rather than annoyance appearing on their faces. The service continued with the presentation of Mike's badge and service weapon to his parents. The department's bagpipe player moved to the front, the poignant melody of Amazing Grace echoing through the chapel. As the bagpipes ceased, a quiet stillness settled over the chapel. The funeral director walked to the podium, ready to provide directions for the procession to the cemetery. Prior to speaking, Ranger's demeanor changed significantly. The Belgian Malinois froze, his body trembling as if electrified. His eyes fixed on the casket widened. His breathing quickened, nostrils flaring as he perceived something only he could detect. Every muscle in his powerful frame tensed, coiling like a spring. "Something's wrong," Wilson whispered to Martinez, tightening his grip on the leash. "He's never acted like this before." Martinez recognized the signs. "That's not aggression," she whispered back. "That's recognition." At that moment, Ranger initiated his action with a swift advance that surprised Wilson. The dog broke free of the leash held by his handler. Multiple officers reacted to try and stop him, but Ranger was too quick. His actions were deliberate and purposeful as he sped down the central aisle. A collective intake of breath spread through the chapel as the Belgian Malinois moved toward the front, his paws making no sound on the carpeted floor. Mike's mother emitted a quiet cry, his father partially rising from his seat. Chief Roberts prepared to proceed, yet Ranger's behavior created a moment of hesitation for all present. It wasn't a display of hostility or fear, it was a sign of clear intention. Ranger approached the casket and halted, inhaling deeply around its sides. Then, with the same effortless skill that had distinguished him during his service, he jumped up, his front paws landing softly on the casket's rim. For a brief instant, he maintained his balance there, his amber eyes assessing the gathered mourners as if awaiting consent. There was no movement and no sound. A hush fell over the entire room. Ranger, with deliberate motions, pulled himself completely onto the casket, his nails producing the faintest clicking sound on the polished wood. The American flag covering the casket moved a little under his weight. The dog turned once, then positioned himself on top of the casket, directly above where Mike's chest would be. "Oh my God," Elaine whispered, tears flowing down her face. Ranger lowered his head, pressing his nose against the wood. He took a deep breath, then released it in a trembling exhale that appeared to hold all the grief imaginable. His ears pressed against his head as he whined, a sound so sorrowful it seemed to permeate the very walls. "Should I?" Wilson began, taking a tentative step forward. Captain Walsh raised a hand, halting him. "No," he said softly, "let him be." The dog's behavior shifted from active to observant. He assumed the familiar alert stance he had held many times in the patrol car, watchful, protective, prepared. His gaze moved across the room as if still performing his duties, still safeguarding his partner. Ranger remained perfectly still, his chest rising and falling in a pattern that appeared synchronized with an unseen power. The first shock among those grieving subsided into a deep silence, not distressing, but respectful. Then Ranger performed an action that shifted the moment from poignant to truly unforgettable. With deliberate slowness, he lifted his right paw and pressed it flat against the American flag, precisely over the spot where Mike's badge would be on his uniform. He maintained the position, unwavering, resolute, and clear. Elaine reacted with a gasp, her hand covering her mouth. "The salute," she breathed, her voice just audible to those close by. "That's Mike's special signal." A quiet buzz of conversation arose within the chapel, as those familiar with the meaning shared it with others. 3 years prior, Mike had developed a distinctive training cue with Ranger. It was a discreet signal, used exclusively between them, a customized gesture that Ranger would execute only in reaction to Mike's particular hand movement. This was not a component of regular police K-9 instruction. It was intimate, unique, and shared solely by them. Officer Chun, who was present the night Mike passed, moved closer to Captain Walsh. "Mike's last touch," she whispered, her voice cracking. Prior to the ambulance arrival, he touched Ranger's head in the manner he always used when issuing that command. It wasn't simply a gesture, Martinez explained softly to those present. It represented their method of conveying a message, signifying mission accomplishment when verbal communication was impossible. I have never observed another team exhibiting such a profound connection. As Ranger held the salute, his gaze remained steady and observant, as if anticipating additional direction. A profound quiet settled over the chapel, punctuated only by quiet weeping from Mike's family. Mike's father rose abruptly, his action capturing everyone's attention. The former officer moved toward the casket deliberately, maintaining a dignified posture despite the sadness visible on his face. He halted near Ranger, standing respectfully without touching the dog. Then, with careful control, he performed a formal police salute. "Mission accomplished, son," he said, his voice thick with feeling but audible in the still room. One by one, each uniformed officer in the chapel stood and repeated the gesture, a multitude of salutes recognizing not only their deceased comrade, but the connection they were observing. Even civilian mourners rose, palms on their chests, accepting something beyond common comprehension. Ranger maintained his posture for a few more seconds, then gradually lowered his paw. He adjusted his position near the casket, turning to look at Mike's father. The dog's ears rose, his keen eyes observing the man's face. "He was so proud to be your partner," Mike's father said to Ranger, his voice a quiet murmur. "Every day he told us how fortunate he was to have you." The chaplain, who had been observing with evident feeling, moved forward once more. "In 20 years of service to the department," he said, speaking to those present, "I have conducted far too many ceremonies like this one. I have never seen such a demonstration of the connection between an officer and his canine partner." He paused, regaining his composure. "It seems there are relationships in this world that even death cannot break." The chaplain's words appeared to fill the chapel, offering solace where it had seemed impossible just before. Mike's mother, who had been almost devastated, stood a little straighter, her gaze fixed on Ranger. Mike frequently claimed the dog understood everything, she stated, in a voice audible to those around. He asserted Ranger could occasionally read his mind. She wiped her eyes with a handkerchief. "I believed he was overstating things." Chief Roberts approached the podium once more, his own demeanor noticeably strained. "I believe we should modify our proceedings," he remarked, glancing at the funeral director. "It seems Ranger will be with his partner for the rest of the service." Throughout the service, Ranger stayed on the casket, a quiet protector watching over his companion. The funeral director, showing impressive flexibility, modified the arrangements to accommodate the dog. The customary pallbearers were in place, though questions remained regarding the concluding procession. "We need to proceed to the cemetery shortly," the director said to Captain Walsh. Walsh responded with a nod, then moved towards the casket with deliberate steps. Ranger spoke softly, mirroring the tone he had often heard Mike use. "We need to take Mike now." The dog's ears twitched at the familiar name, his amber eyes following Walsh's movements. He remained still, shifting his weight and settling more firmly atop the American flag. Mike's sister, Elaine, rose from her seat, dabbing her eyes with a crumpled tissue. She walked towards the casket, her steps unsteady but resolute. She had observed the strong connection between her brother and his canine partner from the very beginning. She recalled numerous family dinners where Ranger sat at Mike's feet, and holidays where the dog received gifts alongside everyone else. "Ranger," she said softly, extending her hand palm up, mirroring the gesture she had seen Mike use many times. "It's okay, boy." The Belgian Malinois' attention turned to her, his nostrils flaring slightly as he analyzed her scent. The scent was close enough to Mike's to be recognized as belonging to his family. His ears moved forward, his head tilting as if assessing the situation. "Mike would be so proud of you," she said, her voice cracking. "You were the best partner he could have wished for. The best friend." Something in her words, or perhaps her tone, appeared to connect with the dog. Ranger looked from Elaine to the casket below him, then back to her. A quiet whine came from his throat. It wasn't a sound of distress now, but of inquiry. "I know," she murmured. "I miss him too." With extreme gentleness, she placed her hand on the dog's back. Ranger tensed briefly, then relaxed into the touch. Elaine stroked his fur, mirroring the way she'd seen her brother do after their shifts together. "We need to take Mike to his resting place now," she explained, speaking as if the dog understood every word. Perhaps he did. "Will you help us do that?" The chapel remained utterly silent, with everyone holding their breath as they observed this private moment. Ranger regarded Elaine for a considerable time, then rose slowly and deliberately. His movements were measured and respectful, ensuring his stability on the casket's curved top. For a brief moment he stood rigidly, resembling a dog in peak condition. Then, with a grace that moved many to tears, he descended from the casket, stepping gently onto the carpeted floor near Elaine. Wilson moved forward with the leash, but Elaine halted him with a raised hand. "Let him walk with us," she said, "with no restrictions. Mike would have wanted it." Chief Roberts gave his consent, and Wilson moved aside. The pallbearers arranged themselves, raising the casket with coordinated precision. As the solemn procession began its descent down the central aisle, Ranger stepped alongside the casket, positioned at heel, precisely where he would have walked beside Mike during patrols. Outside, the autumn air held the fragrance of rain in the distance. The hearse door closed with a quiet finality, sealing the last chapter. Ranger watched, a flicker of confusion returning to his stance. Wilson approached, anticipating the dog might need reassurance, but before he could offer the leash, Ranger acted. The Belgian Malinois walked purposefully to the police motorcycle that would lead the procession, Mike's motorcycle, now solemnly draped in ceremonial black bunting. Ranger settled beside it, adopting the familiar posture he'd used countless times when Mike was getting ready for their shift. Captain Walsh looked at the motorcycle officer who would be leading the procession. "Can you accommodate him?" The officer, who had previously worked with Mike and Ranger for years, responded immediately. "It would be an honor, sir." With care, the officer assisted Ranger into the specially adapted sidecar, designed for K-9 transport during parades and ceremonial events. The dog relaxed, his demeanor alert yet composed, as if accepting the situation. Upon arrival at the cemetery, the concluding ceremonies proceeded with military formality. The honor guard conveyed the casket to the gravesite, with Ranger following closely, still unrestrained but maintaining impeccable control. The chaplain offered concluding words of solace as the casket was placed. As the formal folding of the flag commenced, Ranger observed with unwavering attention, following each action. The carefully folded triangle was given to Mike's mother, who held it close. Next, the rifle salute occurred, 3 volleys that echoed through the autumn air. Ranger reacted slightly at the initial shots, but remained in position. By the 3rd volley, he remained perfectly still at attention, seemingly acknowledging the respect being shown. As the bugler played taps, the somber notes lingered in the air. Ranger advanced 3 steps. With careful movements, he lifted his paw again, pressing it against the casket in that customary salute, a concluding gesture between comrades that moved many to tears. When the final note subsided, Ranger retreated, then settled down near the gravesite, his chin resting on his paws. He remained steadfast until the last mourner had left. The cemetery gradually emptied, with mourners departing in small groups, many taking a moment to look back at the striking scene. A devoted dog kept watch near his partner's final resting place. Mike's family were the last to leave the gravesite. His father knelt beside Ranger, placing a calloused hand on the dog's back. "You'll always have a home with us, boy," he said, his voice thick with feeling. "Mike would have wanted us to support one another at this time." The Belgian Malinois looked up at him, its amber eyes reflecting a depth of understanding that went beyond the boundaries of species. He shifted a little closer, acknowledging the bond, then turned his attention to the casket now being placed in the ground. Captain Walsh came forward, taking off his formal hat and holding it to his chest. He stated that the department had considered Ranger's future. Traditionally, canines are retired after their handlers pass away. Mike's mother looked up sharply. He was too young to retire. Too skilled. Walsh nodded. That's what we believe as well. With your permission, Officer Wilson has volunteered to become Ranger's new handler. They already share a connection, and Wilson initially trained with Mike. Elaine wiped away fresh tears. Mike would agree. He often said Wilson was the only other officer Ranger seemed to truly listen to. As if in agreement with her words, Ranger stood, shaking his coat slightly. He glanced between the family members and Walsh, then purposefully moved to stand beside Wilson, who had come closer quietly. I'll never replace Mike, Wilson said, his voice faltering. I wouldn't attempt to, but I pledge to you and Ranger that I will respect their partnership in our work together. Ranger looked once more at the gravesite, his stance conveying a sense of finality, an acceptance that had not been visible previously. With deliberate movements, he turned and walked beside Wilson toward the waiting police vehicles. He did not look back. As any good officer would, he was moving forward, carrying the legacy of his fallen partner with him into whatever missions awaited. The bond between a canine officer and their handler exemplifies one of the most sincere partnerships in law enforcement, founded on absolute trust, steadfast loyalty, and a connection that transcends verbal communication. The final tribute given by Ranger serves as a poignant reminder that profound feelings are often conveyed through actions rather than words. Have you ever observed a moment where an animal appeared to comprehend death or loss in a manner that seemed inexplicable? What fosters such strong connections between humans and their canine partners that they can surpass even the final parting? If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like and share it with someone who appreciates the extraordinary bond between handlers and their canine partners. These incredible dogs risk their lives alongside human officers every day, demonstrating courage and loyalty that deserve our recognition and respect. Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss another powerful story about police canine heroes. Our collection of true stories about dogs keeps expanding, with new videos added each week to display these extraordinary collaborations. Please view the suggested videos currently displayed for additional moving narratives that emphasize the steadfast commitment of police dogs nationwide. We will also see you again tomorrow at the same time with another fresh video.